Hello to all the students. Today I am back with a new unit that is of pteridophytes, and the topic that we are going to cover today under that unit is classification of pteridophytes, right? So before understanding its classification, let us just have a brief look into what are pteridophytes. So pteridophytes is actually a word of Latin origin, and this can be split into two, that is pteron, which is feather, and phyton, which is plants. So this means that pteridophytes are feather-like plants. These are included in cryptogams. And what are cryptogams? These are seedless plants, that is plants that do not have seeds. So as shown in the figure, this is a fern leaf, and you can see at the back side there is presence of spores. So these spores, they disperse, and later on from the spores new individual grows, right? So the propagation is seedless. There are no seeds present, and hence these are called seedless plants and hence included in cryptogams. Also, they have presence of vascular system. So what is vascular system? It is the system that conducts water and food, right? So they have well developed xylem and phloem. Xylem we know is water conducting tissue, and phloem is food conducting tissue. So pteridophytes, they have well developed conducting system. That means that they have well developed xylem and phloem, because of which they are also known as vascular cryptogams, because they have well developed vessels. Now pteridophytes are also called higher cryptogams. Now cryptogams are all those plants that are seedless, but cryptogams also include algae and bryophytes, but those are called lower cryptogams because they do not have a proper body, and also they do not have a well developed conducting system. But pteridophytes, as it has a well developed body and also a well developed conducting system, these are called as higher cryptogams. So as shown in the figure, they have well developed root, stem and leaves, and as they have all of these three, they have a well developed vascular tissue, right? And hence this gives pteridophytes the credit of being called as higher cryptogams. Also, they are the first true land plants. So actually these pteridophytes, they are evolved from bryophytes, and pteridophytes have feather like fronds which looks like leaves, and also they look like a complete plant. So these were the first vascular plants that were formed, and hence they are also called true vascular land plants, which actually evolved from bryophytes. Now these pteridophytes, they invaded land for millions of years ago, right? Millions of years they invaded land, and they were dominant during the Paleozoic era, and hence this era was also known as the age of Pteridophyta or the age of pteridophytes, right? So for now this much is enough for us to know that what are pteridophytes. Now we move towards our topic, that is classification of pteridophytes. Now various scientists have given different classifications, but we will be focusing on classification of pteridophytes by Reimers, which was given in 1953. And this classification was followed by Spaun in 1966. So we start first with the basic classification that we all know of kingdom Plantae, and after that we'll understand that where the pteridophytes come, and then we'll start the classification of pteridophytes according to Reimers. So all the plants are included in the kingdom Plantae, right? And this kingdom is divided into two sub-kingdoms, right? These two sub-kingdoms are cryptogams and phanerogams, right? So cryptogams, as I mentioned before, are all the plants that are without seeds. So these plants, they do not have seeds, right? And phanerogams are plants with seeds, right? So these are plants that have seeds, right? So now this phanerogam subkingdom has only one single division, which is Spermatophyta, right? So Spermatophyta includes all the plants that have seeds, includes all the plants that have flowers, right? So all the flowering plants have been included in this single division, which is Spermatophyta, which comes under the subkingdom Phanerogams. Now we move towards the understanding of cryptogams. So this subkingdom, which is cryptogam, gets divided into three divisions. These divisions are Thallophyta, Bryophyta and Pteridophyta, right? So these are the three divisions. Now Thallophyta, as the name suggests, these lack the proper body. They do not have a differentiation into root, stem and leaves. These lack the vascular system. Their plant body is thallus. Thallus means there is no differentiation of root, stem and leaves, and hence these are called Thallophyta, and these are usually seen in wet places. So this kind of picture that you see are of algae, and most of the algae are included in Thallophyta. Their plant body is thallus, right? So these are Thallophyta. Then the second division is Bryophyta. So Bryophyta is advanced version of Thallophyta. So this here, the plant body is differentiated, right? But this is differentiated in comparison to Thallophyta. That means that Thallophyta did not had any kind of root, stem and leaf, but Bryophyta, they have like a more developed body where they have little rhizomes, they have very small leaves, leaf like structure, and they have a sporophyte coming up from their gametophyte, right? And then also they lack the vascular tissue. So bryophyte also do not have the true vascular tissue, and these often grow in moist habitats. So these can be seen on rocks. They grow on rocks where there is watery surface available. So in such places bryophytes grow. These are often known as moss, right? And then comes the third division, which is of Pteridophyta. So Pteridophyta are like Thallophyte and Bryophyte. They also do not have seeds, but the main difference is that they have vascular system which is very well developed, and they are also called higher cryptogams, right? Whereas Thallophyta and Bryophyta are called lower cryptogams. So this is the division Pteridophyta, which now we are going to classify according to the classification of Reimers, right? So we start with the classification of Pteridophyta. Pteridophyta is the division that has this number of classes, right? The classes that Pteridophyta have are 5 classes. These are Xylophytopsida, Psilotopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida and Pteropsida. So these are the main 5 classes that the division Pteridophyta has. Now this class, all of these classes are again divided into orders. They have orders. These, so first of all we look into the class of Xylophytopsida. It has one single order, which is Xylophytales. So this order Xylophytales has two species, two genus, that is Rhynia and Asteroxylon. Now I have kept here asterisk mark. This means that this order is now a fossil, right? So all of the members that are present in this order will also be fossil. That means they no more exist. All of these are extinct, right? So as we progress towards the classification of Pteridophyta, wherever you will observe this asterisk mark, understand that, remember that these are the fossil members, they no more exist, right? So this is the order Xylophytales of Xylophytopsida, right? Now about Xylotopsida, it also has one single order, which is Xylotales, and Xylotales has one single genus, which is Xylotum, right? Now Xylotum is an important plant. This is a living fossil. Now what is a living fossil? Any plant of a order or a class that is the sole surviving member. It is the only plant that is surviving, then it is called a living fossil, right? That means that all of the other members of this order or of this class no more exist, but this is the only plant that exists, then it is called the living fossil, right? So Xylotopsida has one single order and the example is Xylotum. Now Lycopsida gets divided into these orders. So these are Protolepidodendrales, Lycopodiales, Lepidodendrales, Isoetales and Selaginellales. So again you can see here that Protolepidodendrales and Lepidodendrales are fossil members, whereas Lycopodiales, Isoetales and Selaginellales are still alive, right? So some examples. Now Protolepidodendrales example is not known, but Lycopodiales example we have, which is Lycopodium and Phyloglossales. Lepidodendrales have example Lepidodendron and Lepidocarpon. Isoetales has example Isoetes, and Selaginellales have the genus Selaginella, right? So this is about Lycopsida, where Protolepidodendrales, that is all of its members are extinct, and Lepidodendrales, that is Lepidodendron and Lepidocarpon, are extinct, right? Only the surviving members are of Lycopodiales, Isoetales and Selaginellales. Now we move towards the class Phenopsida. This class Phenopsida has orders which are Hyneales, Sphenophyllales, Calamitales, Equisetales, right? So these orders, as you see, Phenopsida class has all the three orders as fossils, right? So all of the members of this order will be fossil members, whereas one single order that survives is Equisetales, that is the member of order Equisetales is a surviving member, right? So let us take example. Sphenophyllales example is Sphenophyllum. Calamitales example is Calamites and Calamostachys. Equisetales example is Equisetum. Now Equisetum is also called a living fossil because all of the other members of this class are extinct, but this is the only surviving member of this class and hence it is called a living fossil, right? So we saw here two living fossils. One is from Psilotopsida, which has example of Psilotum, and one is Equisetum of the order Equisitales, that is from Sphenopsida, right? Now we move towards the last class, which is Pteropsida. Now this Pteropsida is different in comparison to this classes in this way that Pteropsida has further been classified into subclasses. In all of these classes we saw that it was getting divided into orders, but Pteropsida first of all gets divided into subclass, and this subclass then gets divided into orders. So I have mentioned subclass here. In the next part of our lecture, the next part, that is the next slide, I'll be explaining you what are the orders, right? So let us first look into what are the subclasses of Pteropsida. These are Primophilices, Eusporangiate, Osmundidae and Leptosporangiate. So these are the four subclasses. In the next slide I'll be explaining that which are the orders that comes under this subclass. Also I'll be explaining you some of the characteristics of these classes from which you will be able to distinguish between each of these classes. So yes, one more thing. Now which are the members that are important for you as a student when you study about pteridophytes? So the important examples are of Psilotum, which is from Psilotopsida. Lycopodium, though you will not be studying it this time, but Lycopodium is also a living member, and it is also important. Isoetes is also a pteridophyte that survives, and Selaginella is also studied, and Equisetum is also studied. So these are some of the important pteridophytes that are still living and we study as a botanists, right, during our studies. So these are some of the important examples that you need to understand, and also it would be good if you remember the at least the orders and class of these surviving members, right? Okay, so now we move towards the class Pteropsida, which I explained have four subclasses. Now this subclass has these subclasses are, as I mentioned, Primophilices, Eusporangiate, Osmundidae and Leptosporangiate. Now this subclass is further divided into orders. So the first subclass, Primophilices, has orders Cladoxylales and Cynopteridales. Both of these are fossils, right? So we do not have an example of this right now, but we can take example of Cynopteridales, which is Botryopteris, and Zygopteris, both of which are extinct. Then Eusporangiate subclass have orders Ophioglossales and Marachiales, right? So Ophioglossales example is Ophioglossum and Marachiales example is Angiopteris. Now both of these order exist, that is the members of this order is still a surviving member, right? Similarly, Osmundidae has order Osmundales, which has single genus, which is Osmunda. Osmunda is also a surviving member. And the last subclass, which is Leptosporangiate, has orders Filicales, Marciliales and Salviniales. And the examples of these orders are order Filicales have example Hymenophyllum and Adiantum. Marciliales have example of Marsilia, and Salviniales have example of Salvinia and Azolla, right? So as you can see that this Pteropsida class, the only extinct order is Cladoxylales and Cynopteridales belonging to subclass Primophilisis, but rest all the subclasses, that is Eusporangiaceae, Osmundidae and Leptosporangiaceae, have orders that have their genus still surviving, right? So these three subclasses are not extinct. Now in the next slide we'll understand some characteristic of these classes. So we move forward. Okay, one more thing that you need to know is the important plant that you need to understand about is Adiantum, Marsilia and Azolla, right? So these are the plants, Adiantum, Marsilia and Azolla are the plants that you need to study, though you may not be studying this in this semester, but these are important plant in terms of economic value also, right? And also these are living members, right? So okay, so we move forward. So let us first understand the characteristics of Psilophytopsida, which was our first class, right? So this class, all of the members are extinct as I mentioned before, and the main characteristic was that it had only stem and rhizome. There was only stem and rhizome present in these members, but there was no leaf and root present, right? So an example of this class is Rhynia. This plant is extinct, but it looked something like this, where it had this kind of rhizome. These were runners, that is from this runner new plant arises, right? So it had very small rhizomes, no roots, no leaves, just only stem, right? So this is the example of Rhynia, which belongs to class Psilophytopsida. Now let us understand the next class, which is Psilotopsida. So Psilotopsida has members which are commonly known as whisk ferns. These plants are rootless, they do not have root, and you can see dichotomous branching in their plant body, in their stems. Dichotomous branching means from one stem two stems arises, and then from that two stems again two stems will arise. So this is dichotomous branching. So an example of Psilotopsida is Psilotum, the only living fossil, right? So as you can see, this is Psilotum plant. It has rhizomes, there are no roots. These are the aerial branches, and you can see that the branches have dichotomous branching. So there are dichotomous branching in the stem, and also there is presence of ligule. Ligule is like a very small leaf present, very small, which appears like a leaf. So that is ligule. So this is about Psilotopsida with the example of Psilotum. So you can see here that in Psilophytopsida there were no leaves present. Now here there is evolution, and there is a small ligule like leaf is present. So this is about Psilotopsida. Now we move towards third class, which is Lycopsida. Lycopsida has root, stem and leaves, all of these three parts present, but the leaves are very very small. These are univeined. Univeined means the leaf has only one vein present, and all the leaves are spirally arranged. So here the first example that we need to know is about Selaginella. This is Selaginella. Here you can see that it has stem, this central part is stem, it has leaf, right, and it has rhizophore, and it has root. It has a well developed root, and these are the leaves which are spirally arranged, and there is only single vein, only one vein is present in the leaf. So this is Selaginella. right? Like Selaginella, there is another plant which is Lycopodium. Lycopodium looks similar to Selaginella but only with some differences, right? And another plant of Lycopsida is Isoetis. Isoetis is a what we say, it is also known as quillworts, and it is of cosmopolitan distribution. That is, it is distributed cosmopolitanly. That means that it is distributed in various parts of the world, and but this plant, it actually heavily relies on water, so it requires water to grow, and therefore this plant is also used as indicator of water. So because this plant will not grow where the water quality is poor, so this plant is used as a water indicator, the indicator of quality of water, right? So this is about Isoetis. Now we move towards the next class, which is Phenopsida. Phenopsida also have root, stem and leaves, and here the difference is that these plants have nodes and internodes present, right? So if you remember, Phenopsida, all of the orders were fossil except for Equisetales, which was the living Equisetales, which had Equisetum as the living fossil, right? So Phenopsida, as you see, has root, stem and leaves, and it has nodes and internodes present. So we are going to consider the only one example, which is Equisetum. So this Equisetum is also called horsetail because if we see it, it looks like a horsetail, right? And this is also called puzzle grass. This Equisetum is actually used traditionally to stop bleeding, and this word Equisetum, if we break, equus means horse and seta means bristle, so it has like bristles that are visible over its stem. Now Equisetum can adapt to various kinds of condition. It can even grow in dry condition, it can even grow in moist condition. So various kinds of conditions that are possible for Equisetum to grow, right? So this is Equisetum. Also as I mentioned here, there are nodes and internodes. So as you can see, the plant has nodes present, and the space between two nodes is called internodes, and from that nodes or internodes, this kind of leaves they come out, right? So this is Phenopsida having one single example of Equisetum, right? Now we come towards the last class, which is Pteropsida. Pteropsida have very well developed root, stem and leaves, and Pteropsida have most of the pteridophytes that are megaphylous. Now what is megaphylous? Megaphylous pteridophytes are pteridophytes having very large leaf in comparison to their stem. So as shown here in the figure, these are megaphylous pteridophytes, right? So most of the ferns that you observe in the mountainous area or in moist areas, these kind of plants that you see that grows from rocks and all, these are ferns, and these are megaphylous because they have really large leaves than their stems. So most of the ferns are actually included in the class which is Pteropsida, right? But Pteropsida also has plants that are like they grow in aquatic climate, right? So let us take example of such plants. The first plant is Marsilia. Marsilia is also called water clover because it grows in water. This is an aquatic fern, right? It has an unusual appearance because it does not resemble any fern like appearance, right? As we see, ferns look like this, but it does not have fern like appearance, but these are included in fern. right? And these are called water clover because the leaves look like a clover plant, and these have medicinal value too. Marsilia is also often used as food source, and also in many places Marsilia is regarded as a weed, right? So this is about Marsilia. The another plant that we need to know is about Salvinia. Salvinia is a floating fern, that is, it floats on water. This is often considered as a weed, and also this is used as a mulch, right, for plants. This is also found in water. The another plant that you need to know is Azolla. Azolla is the smallest, very small pteridophyte. The smallest of the pteridophyte is Azolla. You can see it floating in the water. The pond usually gets filled by such pteridophytes. So as you can see here, even on the animal's body there is this pteridophyte visible, which is Azolla. It is very, very small, and but this Azolla is often used as water purifier. It can be used for the production of biogas. It is nitrogen source also, so utilized as fertilizer also. Also animals eat it, right? So this is about Azolla. Azolla is very useful as a fertilizer, as animal feed, as medicine, right? And this is the smallest pteridophyte, which falls under the class Pteropsida. This is also aquatic. And one more plant of Pteropsida is Adiantum, right? Adiantum is also called maidenhair fern, or it is also called walking fern, because the growing branches, wherever these branches, they when reach the soil, the plant starts growing there, and it feels like that the plant is walking, right? Therefore it is also called walking fern. And this also needs moist condition and good wet condition to grow. So all of these are aquatic, right? So what we can identify from this is that this is a evolution. See, Rhynia, it had no leaves, no proper roots, right? And then after that, this Xylotum, it has just beginning of formation of leaves, which is like ligule, right? Then Lycopsida, which has Selaginella, it has well developed leaves, but leaves are small, univeined, spirally arranged. Root, stem and leaf is present, but leaf is very small. Then as we reach to Sphenopsida, we see that now there are nodes and internodes also present, there are leaves present, right? And then as we move to Pteropsida, we see that there are properly developed leaves present, right? They have well developed vascular system. So this is a evolution from Xylophytopsida to Xylotopsida to Pteropsida, right? So this class is continuously evolving, and if you see that all of these members of Pteropsida are surviving members, right? So that is that these Pteropsida have survived because of their characteristic, because they were able to survive. As we know that there is always survival of the fittest, so these Pteropsida members are still surviving, right? So that is it. So this is about the classification of Pteridophyta according to Reimers. I hope I was able to make you understand about this topic, but still if you have any doubt, you can just ask me anytime, right? So that is it for today. With this we end our lecture. I'll be back with the continuation of this topic. Till then, if you have any doubts, you can clear it with me, right? Okay, so thank you.